Christ is king, it's where we belong. Stay with the dream, don't lose your way. Right way's the fire that'll light the day. Keep it simple, let the moment arrive. 3-8 trap keeps the hope alive. Hold on tight till the signal's near. Right way's the trail, we're breaking through fear.
Good morning, fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for November 5th, 2025. Well, we had quite a wild day yesterday with some sellers picking up as there's suddenly a concern and more stories about valuation problems in the market. But hey, today's another day with a huge slate of earnings, so let's get after it. First off, let's take a look at what happened overnight here. Asian markets having a little bit of a rough time last night. We had Australia down $11.70 or 0.13%. Hong Kong fell $16.99 or 0.07%. South Korea was lower by $117.32 or 2.85% lower. The Nikkei fell a whopping 2.5%. 1,284.93 decliner, 2.5%. If we take a look at India was down 165.70 or 0.64%, and we saw Shanghai higher by $9.06 or 0.23% during the night. If we take a look at European markets this morning, European markets are red across the board at the moment. DAX is down 187.52, 0.78% lower. FTSE is lower by 393 or 0.04% lower, and the CAC is down 2371 or 0.9% lower. U.S. futures this morning have been bouncing around here a little bit, but at the moment they are all lower. We've got Dow futures down 24 points, S&P 500 futures down $19.50, and those NASDAQ futures decidedly bearish here this morning, down 123.50. Let's take a look at what's happening in the bond market here this morning. And we've got those bonds. They've eased up just a little bit. The 2-year bond is at 3.57%. The 10-year bond is coming in at 4.8%. And that 30-year bond is down about 1/10 at 4.67% here first thing this morning. Now, if we take a look at what's going on in the US dollar, that dollar is just ever so slightly pulling back here this morning after a good strong move yesterday, pushing us up through this resistance here in the chart, looking pretty good overall. Now we've created some support in here on our trend right along here. Kind of surprising after we've cut rates twice that we're actually seeing the dollar strengthen. Now, keeping an eye on that, we are down this morning about 3.5 cents in the dollar. So still showing some pretty good strength here overall. If we take a look at what happened in gold, as the dollar strengthens, it hasn't been good for gold. We saw gold fall yesterday pretty sharply. This morning, however, it's up $10.30 an ounce at $39.70.80 an ounce. Silver is also a little bit higher here this morning. Up, let's see, almost 14 cents at 47.43 an ounce. Copper continues to be just a little bit lower right now, down about 3 cents in copper. Platinum is down 23.10 or 1.49% here this morning, and palladium is lower by $12 or 0.84% lower this morning. If we take a look at cryptos, we're getting a bounce back after some really rough days here in in cryptos. This morning we've got Bitcoin up 1,298.44 a coin, or 1.29% higher, trying to get a good bounce back up. Ether, which fell really hard yesterday, is now posting about 116.62 a coin higher, or 3.65%. And we've got Solana up $4.31, up 2.80% after quite a slide here in those cryptos. Right now, green across the board in cryptos here this morning. If we take a look at oil this morning is trying to bounce up just a little tiny bit. It's fallen from its high here this morning, but oil futures at the moment up 12 cents at 60.67 a barrel here this morning. Brent is coming in at 64.63 a barrel, and natural gas is pulling back today after several days of good strong move to the upside. So keep an eye on nat gas, down 10.5 cents. So what does all that mean for the day? Well, how about we settle in, let's buckle up, and let's get ready for the Wednesday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate it. Let's take a look at these index charts, see if we can figure out how we might approach the market for today. Remember, we want to look at these markets for what they are, not for what we want them to be, and really focus in on the details and shake off that bias. Now, looking here at the diamonds, you can see we've got a little bit of a concern starting to happen here. We have slipped past this upside trend here. Nothing that can't be recovered just yet, but we have slipped past it, and a little bit of concern there on that trend. We've got some pretty decent resistance right in here on that chart. So if the bulls can find inspiration, as a matter of fact, I'm seeing the Dow futures now popping up. We're up 5 points in the Dow futures. If that can continue here today, if we can find inspiration in the earnings and economic data, well, maybe we'll push back up and we'll test this area in the chart, see if we can break back through. If we can break back through, then I'm going to be looking for an area up here to really resolve this bit of a sell-off in here and push us straight up through there. If that happens, I think we're in pretty good shape in the diamonds for maybe even a little bit of a rest up here, and then right on through to new highs on the Dow. However, if those bears continue to show their teeth here, and we were to pop up into these areas of resistance and then show failure, it's going to be how we rally back from this. It's going to be really, really important. If we were to run into some resistance here in the chart and see selling coming in, that's where the problem will occur. It's never the first shot down. Never the first shot down. Just like here, we had that major shot down. It's how we handle that rally back that matters. And as you can see, we haven't lost so much in here that we can't recover it, but there is a little bit of rising concern here with big tech kind of in question now on their valuations. If we take a look at the SPY, SPY, pretty sharp pullback here. Once again, if the bulls can take a hold of this and push this right back up through that high here in the chart, or through that resistance, we're going to be okay. If we can get back up through here, probably going to be okay if we can pop up here and hold. We've got a little bit of extra work here to do in the SPY, because we'll have to break through here, but then we've got this pretty substantial wall of price action right through here that we're going to have to get through as well. So watch that carefully as we push up. This will be the critical place here, I think, in the SPY. If we rally back up into here and then show weakness, yeah, look out. that's where the real selling could come in. So watch that carefully here if that were to happen. If the bulls are not able to push this up, then we have some room here for the bears to continue to push. If you'll look right across here, we didn't quite fill that gap here in the SPY, and that possibility that we could drift into that gap, fill that gap, and then that possibility that we could move right on lower and test this area of price support. So certainly possible there in the SPY. If we look at our QQQ finished the day pretty rough, and as I had suggested, watch this right in here if they'd filled that gap, and they certainly did that, and then they dropped through the low of that candle right here. So let's watch that closely, because if the bears were to continue to have some inspiration here to push down, well, I see that possibility that we could fill this gap here in the chart, pushing that down into this area. If we were to see that occur, then I'd be watching for a potential bounce. But watch that carefully here. Now, if the bulls can grab a hold of this and get something done today, well, we've got a pretty big push that we're going to have to get through. First, we need to get back up through this downtrend, and then we're going to have to break the high of yesterday's candle, pushing up toward this resistance in the chart, and that is going to be critical. If we can get through there, then I think we have a pretty good chance that we could resume and get back up in here toward those all-time highs. Any rest up in here might be just fine. The question would be is if we can't get back up through there, and if we were to show failure, that's going to be a little bit of a problem here in the Qs. Now, IWM is pretty sickly at the moment, and technically speaking, nothing terrible here yet, except we're giving up some of those technicals here in the chart. Breaking back down below that 50-day moving average creates a little bit of a concern here. If the bulls can find inspiration today, first we need to get back through these levels of resistance in the chart. And I've got to tell you, without big tech, it could be a little bit tough here on some of those stocks. So watch that carefully. We need to see that really get pushing back up through here and start picking back up and holding some levels, and then we can resume to the upside. If the bears, however, have anything more to say today, well, I mentioned this yesterday, that possibility of testing this area here in the chart, and if that were to break, I really do see that possibility we could take out this big black reversal candle here and push down into that zone if the bears were to really get going. So watch that closely here, and you can see on IWM breaking down through that 50-day. So a little bit of concern there. Let's take a look at our VIX here. Now, our VIX continued to rise yesterday, but as we rallied back at the end of the day, we did settle that down just a little bit, but we're continuing to see pressure in the VIX and a little bit of fear in that. Watch that carefully. Holding up here around, getting close right in there on 19 handles. If we were to see any additional push here by the bears, pushing back up through here, obviously we're moving up in toward those 20 areas here in the VIX. Now, if the bulls can shake this off, and I think there's every reason that they could, if the bulls can shake this off and catch a bounce, we need to start seeing this VIX pull back or consolidate. The problem is, since we've elevated here in the VIX, just a rest in here could set up that higher low in the VIX. If we were to get a pullback, we're going to need to see that pullback really break this back down, because if we were to hold a higher low in here, that's usually where the selling really picks up. So watch that carefully in the VIX. Our T2122 bounced around quite a bit yesterday, but you'll notice even with as big a selling as we had yesterday, we didn't have any major problem here in T2122. And what I mean by that is we still have plenty of downside for the bears to push. if those bears can find inspiration here today, we may not have completed this move down into the bullish reversal zone. So watch that carefully here. But if the bulls find inspiration, my goodness, we've got a big upside opportunity for them to start that recovery and push back up. So watch carefully here if those bulls were to grab on and get something going here today. Our T2108, unfortunately, our T2108 continued to fall yesterday. If there's some good news in this, we're below 30% of the stocks holding above their 40-day moving average. But if there is some good news in here on this, is we didn't break that October low right here. We didn't break that down, and we've got some support underneath there. So a test in that area, a bounce up here would be bullish. Maybe we could get back up here and start dealing with the downtrend. Some of the price resistance here around 40% is where I'd be watching if we can break back through there. But if those bears have anything to say and we were to push back down through this area, then I would suggest that possibility is we could come down here in this 20% of the stocks above their 40-day if those bears were to get going. And I want to point out that we can go a lot lower in T2108. And then T2107 certainly changed character here this week with a substantial pullback. It's been holding up really stubbornly, and unfortunately it did break that October low here in the chart, back down below 45% of the stocks above their 40-day moving average. If we get a bullish action in here, then I would look for that bounce back up and see if we can push back toward this 50% resistance here and downtrend in that chart. So watch that carefully. But if the bears have anything to say and we continue to see selling, I'm going to look down here around 40% of the stocks. We could stretch down into there if those bears have anything that they can grab onto. And T2101 rose yesterday on that bearish wave. We finally had a little bit more momentum in T2101, but unfortunately it was on the bearish side. One thing I said in the Right Way Options room yesterday is, although the bears are getting some things done, they're not getting enough done. They really didn't show an aggressiveness in there that gives me confidence that they're taking over here. So watch this pullback as it pulls back. If it completes, if there's no more major energy on those bears, then look for a relief rally to start to begin, and we'll want to be watching those resistance levels above if that begins. So watch that carefully. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here for today. And our economic calendar, we do have a few things we'll want to be paying attention to. We've got mortgage applications in here, an ADP report. I think ADP is independent from the government, so we'll probably still get that here today. Consensus is looking for a 25,000 increase on that ADP, so watch that carefully. Mortgage applications this morning, we've got some bond announcements in here, that Treasury refunding agreement in here. We're going to get a PMI composite number. The PMI, they're looking for a 54.8. That's basically flat on that composite. And services rising, just ever so slightly from 54.2 on that last read. And then we've got an ISM services number looking for a 51 print, up from 50 last reading, so an improvement there. We're going to get the petroleum status numbers here today. Keep an eye on that. There is some concern of an oversupply. We're certainly not seeing that in these numbers, but yeah, keep an eye on that. And then we've got a bond auction in here to be paying attention to in those Treasury buyback results. So looking into Thursday, as you're planning ahead, we got the Challenger job cut report. We're going to get jobless claims, well, assuming the government were to open up and they were to get it done. Productivity and costs, wholesale inventories, natural gas report. We've got some Fed speak in here tomorrow, Fed balance sheet. So pretty big parade of Fed speakers here. Well, they voted for the 14th time to reopen the government. No movement on that, so government still closed, the longest closure in history. Continuing to, they're suggesting about $15 billion a day that the government is shut down, impact to the economy. So that uncertainty is continuing to grow and may start digging into all of everyone's flight times, trying to move around the country during the holidays. So watch that carefully here as this potentially extends into that Thanksgiving time period. Let's take a look at what we've got going on in some stocks that could be. Oh, how about our earnings stocks? Here's our earnings for today. These are the notables. There's a lot more than this, but the notables for today, obviously there's no way I can cover those, but I did, put in here right at the beginning some big notables this morning. Mickey D's will be in there reporting. We've got Pay in here that will be reporting. So CCJ is in here. Keep an eye on some of those. And then after the bell here today, we've got Robinhood. We got ARM is in here reporting. APP is in there. Quite a few reports, as you can see. So what usually happens during earnings when we're running through this big of numbers? Volatility. So be prepared for price volatility to continue and challenging price action to be for the rest of this week, I think. Let's take a look at some stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube and also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you could do me that favor, click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to grow. Thank you so much. And remember, everyone, even an emoji counts as engaging with the video. So thank you so much for everyone who does take the time to do that. I truly, truly appreciate it. Let's take a look at some of these stocks that could be setting up. Remember, they're not recommendations to buy or sell any security. You need to do your own due diligence and be very, very careful in this market because of the volatility and the whipsaws that we could see here and head fakes and quick reversals. So make sure you're planning your trades carefully. You're not chasing overly extended stocks either up or down, and you're really thinking carefully about the risks of these trades. This is the kind of market that can chop an account to pieces, so make sure you plan carefully. First off, let's take a look at a couple stocks in here in the big tech area. If we take a look at Google, although Google is pulling back, there is nothing wrong with that chart. That is still a very, very bullish chart. And so if this just rests or consolidates, and maybe it may have to do that or even do a little bit of a protracted pullback all the way out here to this trend, somewhere out here, to relieve some of that pressure like we did right here. Big stretch, and then we had that protracted pullback back to trend. But there is nothing bearish about that chart here at the moment. So continue to keep an eye on stocks like that. When we look at Apple, Apple is Apple is a straight up bullish chart. There is absolutely nothing in there that shows bearishness in there. As a matter of fact, it looks like to me like it's setting up long. And if you would place a price alert right in here, you could catch that if and when that pops here to the upside. Keep an eye on Apple. So although we're seeing these valuation concerns here, really not seeing much for technical damage in a lot of these big tech giant stocks. Let's continue to keep an eye here on on some of the big banks. Morgan Stanley tried to go yesterday, just with the selling here in the market, it just wasn't able to get her done. Watch that carefully here if that could push on through. I think Morgan Stanley's looking pretty good. You can look at BAC. Bank of America is really looking good. Just wasn't able to push on through yesterday, and you can see catching a little pullback here this morning. But keep an eye on some of these big banks. They're looking pretty good overall. Take a look at FedEx. FedEx continues to hold in this nice bullish pattern, nice little resting consolidation out here to trend. Now it is a bit volatile, but that's something that I think we're going to see here in the market. But watch that carefully. If FedEx gets that opportunity here to pop, we're getting close to that place that I would be watching for that. Some of the oil sector stocks, take a look at Sting. Sting, nice little resting pullback. We broke down through this support, little protracted pullback in here, and then pushed back up here in that chart. And now we're pulling back to see if we can hold a support area in here. So we're still dealing with this resistance in the chart, but if we can hold a higher low in here someplace, then I would look for a resumption of the upside trend here in Sting. Worth paying attention to in that chart. Take a look at Wolf. Wolf continues to show this bullishness, and this nice little resting consolidation in here sets up that next opportunity. If those bulls can get going in here, I see every reason to believe they could push on through there on Wolf. LRCX. LRCX is a beautiful chart, really setting up in here, showing some strength with that little resting consolidation. Look for that opportunity that could push on through to the upside. If we take a look, stocks like TJ Maxx, some of these retail stocks, a little bit of mix in here, but they're starting to pop up off these bottoms. My question is, will we hit some of these resistance areas and downtrends and start falling to the downside? But we've got a nice Morningstar pattern here. I'm gonna need that to break out up here and then prove to hold, and then start looking for that trade. But keep an eye on some of those retail. You can see Walmart's trying to bounce back up here a little bit. There's a lot of work yet to be done in some of these retail, but they're trying. There is one that's looking really good in here, and that's Macy's. Macy's, nice little resting consolidation. All we need is a little bit of a push, and I think that could pop up there in Macy's. You could take a look at Dollar Tree in here. Dollar Tree setting up that higher low. Found some buyers right in here off of support and trend. Keep a close eye on that. That may start stretching through, and you'll notice up here we've got a gap that could be filled. So if we can get a little bullish push in here, I think there's every reason to believe at least we could stretch up into that area of the chart on Dollar Tree. Watch that one closely. And although we've been pulling back, some of these industrials are still holding up quite well. Take a look at Caterpillar. Pretty strong pullback here, but you'll notice that we've just come back here to trend at the moment. If we can hold price support in here, I think there's every reason to believe we might see that catch and hold in here. Take a look at Cummins. Cummins on the heavy equipment side. Also very bullish chart, just resting in here on support, sliding out here toward this trend. I would keep an eye on that for that next upside opportunity there in CMI. Still looking pretty good overall. You know, today we're going to get earnings from CCJ. That's really dropping this, but I still think uranium has a major play here. All we really need in some of these uranium plays is for them to hold some support levels, and then I would be watching for that next opportunity, because as you know, AI is going to be eating massive amounts of energy, so keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on boil, natural gas here, trying to break through this basing pattern in here. I still think it may have to rest a little bit. I'm hoping it doesn't pull all the way back, but if it were to rest in here and then show a little pop or even a small pullback in here to kind of hold some support right in there, then look for that next opportunity in the chart. If it does have to consolidate a long period of time, out here to this trend might be where it might go. So watch that carefully here in Boyle, and UNG would be another one if you prefer UNG over Boyle. Getting up through this resistance here in the chart sets us up for that opportunity that this could just rest across here, hold, and then see that opportunity for that to push on through to the upside. So keep an eye on UNG, also looking pretty darn good. So there's quite a few stocks for you to take a look at. Obviously, lots of earnings here today. There's going to be some pops, some drops. As a matter of fact, looks like Mickey D's has reported moving a little bit lower here, and we've got the Dow back in the red. So still red across the board in our major indexes here this morning. Keep an eye on these earnings. Anything is possible. So with that, everyone, hey, I want to wish you all a fantastic day. I want to wish you great results in your trading. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you right back here bright and early. Oh, wait a second. Yeah, I'll see you bright and early Thursday morning. I do have to leave, but I have time to do the morning market prep tomorrow before I have to leave. But you guys take care, and I'll see you first thing tomorrow. Wish you all the best.
Black and white candles, my stars in the dark. Price is my king, got that fire and spark. Rideways my ranch on the trader's trail. Trading with heart where the profits prevail.